One of the side players in this Kavanaugh hearing over the last couple of days has been Mr. Let me get some more attention, Michael Avenatti. And allegedly he is an attorney, although that I will show you is something that could be in doubt in any real sense. So Avenatti allegedly represents a lady named Julie Swetnick. Now, could you come up with a name more interesting than Swetnick? I don't think so. And Julie Swetnick grew up in Maryland, grew up around the same circles that Kavanaugh and Blasey Ford did, Blazo Ford did. And in the private schools and the rest of that. And Swetnick claims, according to Avenatti, that she was in and out of the circles of the high school bunch that ran around with Kavanaugh and with Blasey Ford and the rest of that, and that she attended parties in 81, 82, and 83 that were high school parties of high school kids that were allegedly drugging women and then gang raping them. And that she claimed that she went to 10 of these parties. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I mean, that's an indictment all by itself, and I will tell you why in a minute. That she went to 10 of these parties and eventually was raped herself. Now, aside from the fact that Julie Swetnick was in high tech, and was in high tech at the time, and might herself have CIA connections and might have been playing with this whole process and filming these people, according to some speculation by George Webb, and George Webb does lots of speculation, so I take it with a grain of salt. Aside from that, she claimed that there was disorientation, alcohol, drugs, and gang rapes in this, and that Kavanaugh may have been present in one of those, and that's how Avenatti got more publicity and got more notoriety and got print, got free advertising for who he is. So this Michael Avenatti is a guy who's 47 years old. He is a California guy. He roams all over the country, and he is the attorney for Stormy Tawdry Daniels, STD Daniels, the porn actress who claims to have had a sexual relationship with sexual incident with Donald Trump. And of course, Avenatti has no problem reminding everyone that Trump was allegedly when this incident occurred, Trump was married and that he didn't use a condom or any protection. And of course, that adds to the prurient interest of it, correct? Which seems to be Avenatti's modus operandi. So Avenatti went to law school, or at least that's so it's claimed. And he worked for a research group, a political opposition research and media firm called The Research Group, run by, guess who? Rahm Scuzzball Emanuel. Later, the White House Chief of Staff for Barack Hussein Soetoro, and later the mayor of Chicago, who proceeded to take everybody's guns away from them and clamp down and then have runaway criminality and violent crime in Chicago, and apparently he's not running. So Avenatti allegedly worked on over 150 Democratic and Republican campaigns in 42 states while studying at George Washington University. Would they claim him? I don't know. Now, some of the smudgery that you might get on Avenatti is that an investigator named Gerald Tobin in Florida claimed that Avenatti failed to pay him $28,700 a year ago, and that resulted in Avenatti's firm was forced into bankruptcy. Over 28 grand. Boy, this guy is running. He's a high flyer, right? And then also, Avenatti's law firm has been subjected to a $10 million judgment in U.S. bankruptcy court and he also defaulted on $440,000 judgment in back taxes, penalties, and interest that he was personally obligated to pay under a bankruptcy settlement. And there are millions of dollars in unpaid fees to a former partner, $2 million in back taxes, $1 million to other creditors, and then a former partner has also filed a motion asking for a lien on any assets that Avenatti has. But that's not why I think he's a slimy, fool, crazy, poor, nasty, publicity-grabbing attorney. No, I'll save that for something else. So the process of him claiming that this Julie Swetnick was involved in this sexual activity, he had her file affidavits saying that here she is, 3 years older than Kavanaugh and perhaps 5 or 6 years older than some other partygoers that would have been in these Maryland parties in 1981, 2, and 3. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Well, let me tell you why. According to the Maryland Criminal Code, as it reads now at least, Title 3, Section 307, so 3-307, a person may not engage in sexual contact with another without consent, and in one sense may not engage in it while the person is subject to limited response, is mentally incapacitated, is substantively, cognitively impaired individual. In other words, drug, alcohol, medication, or some kind of physical impairment that would cause the person not to respond. And so Julie Swetnick, if she was involved in this sexual activity, in these gang rapes, and any of these young boys or girls, let's pay attention, were substantially cognitively impaired, then she could at the very least be aiding, abetting, comforting the perpetrator, and or being an accessory to such a crime. And if in fact she wasn't raped but in fact engaged in consensual sex, which as a 19 or 20 or 21-year-old going to her 8th or 9th or 10th gang rape event among high school kids, one would think that she might be consensual and that there's no such thing as being raped. But I could be wrong, I mean, why anybody who was 19 or 20 or 21 years of age would go around a bunch of 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds and then watch them gang rape young girls who have been drugged and not think she has any legal impairment herself, any potential criminal victimization, or that she is responsible as an adult, 18 years and older, are responsible as an adult for the activity she was witnessing. So it is possible that she could be found guilty either as a perpetrator, as a person involved in sexual activity, and or as an accessory, or as someone who aided, abetted, or comforted the perpetrators of this crime, and as an adult be treated as a criminal sexual perpetrator, sexual violator, fully responsible to the law, liable for at upwards of, could be convicted of a felony for 3rd degree and a penalty of up to 10 years in prison, and possibly being named as a sexual predator for the rest of her life. So Mr. Avenatti, Mr. Brilliant attorney, who wanted to get the limelight to claim that his client, Julie Swetnick, was going around with a bunch of juvenile kids in Maryland watching them gang rape people, acting as an adult, as an involved, engaged, overseeing adult, at the very least could be contributing to the delinquency of these people, but could be, as a more serious consequence, charged with aiding, abetting, comforting, or as an accessory or as a perpetrator of third-degree sexual assault in Maryland, for which there is, Mr. Avenatti, no statute of limitations. So you may have brought your client into criminal liability with her own affidavit, which you helped her prepare to cause her to be questionably a criminal defendant in Maryland. Congratulations. Does that give you some notoriety? There we go, Mr. Avenatti. What a brilliant thing to do. And you are a very bright attorney to step into this one, right? This is a pile of doo-doo in a paper bag, and you just stepped in it, and guess what? You may have it all over you, and you may never recover. Because if that's the case, she will have a very good lawsuit against you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. Hey, I like it. I like it a lot. And what an idiot this guy is. Mr. Fool Avenatti. Thank you.